It is a massively important time to be paying attention to what is happening in the markets. We need to take a look at the charts. I am Dr. Sock, Doctor of Education, and do you know what you get when you mix a sneeze with a Japanese poem? You get a haichu. All right, so we are near the 50-day simple moving average in SPY and QQQ. Apple earnings came out and announced a huge stock buyback, which I think really helped them out. Also a pickup in business in China as well. And so for Apple, that was very positive. Stock is moving up massively, huge company, so it's going to be influential to the markets. And that puts us in a sort of a favorable position, combined with the fact that today we have non-farm payrolls. Hopefully that comes out favorably. If it does, along with the other numbers that are coming out during that time, well, we don't really have a lot of news over the next week. So throughout that next week, we could actually experience whatever direction we start is whatever direction we could continue. So if we make it up over that 50-day, we could possibly keep on moving above that 50-day throughout the next week up until we get to, well, Michigan consumer sentiment on Friday. If that number would come in super low for some reason, that could interrupt an upward move. Super high could interrupt a downward move. Otherwise, I expect it to come in about where it's been at recently. So into the next week after that, however, we start to get into the inflation report that we get on Wednesday, May the 15th with the CPI. So next week, not a lot of information coming our way. And so, like I said, whatever direction we start this week, maybe even today, we could see continue through next week. So possibly, if we don't break that 50 today, maybe we do end up breaking it throughout the next week. So let me bring that down and put the charts up for you. And we're going to start off by looking at SPY. Then we'll get into the Qs. We'll talk about Bitcoin a little bit, Apple, Tesla, and NVIDIA. So let me put this up here for you. You can see this consolidation pattern that we started forming on SPY, slightly trading up in the pre-market hours. Now, mind you, this is before non-farm payrolls, which can be a significant catalyst to the markets. So we're going to be paying attention to that. Significant signs of contraction there for the non-farm payrolls is going to be downward pressure on the markets, and we want to see continued stable pressure, we would say, stable numbers coming out of non-farm payrolls. Too high might be pushing on inflation a little bit too much for us to make the market comfortable. So something stable, I think, would be best. The 50-day simple moving average is blue line right here, right around the 511 number. And that's what we want to get up above. And we would concede that for continued strength through next week. And then the CPI, I think, is going to be that next major determinant for what we get. It is noteworthy that on a seasonally unadjusted basis, that CPI is usually highest in February and March at the beginning of the year, and then tapering off there until you get to about June. And then we have the next spike, which happens August through October, somewhere in that time, and then lulls in November, December. Again, that's on an unadjusted basis for CPI. So moving over to the Qs, we're still down below 50, and also we have a little bit, you can see my trend line that I have on here, that we need to break up above that trend line. We also need to get up above the 50 for QQQ as well. My mouse is not working for me, so I apologize about the jumpiness of the cursor that we have. 436 is that number to get up above. And like I said, the numbers from Apple are pretty darn good with that. And now, mind you, NVIDIA's chart is also very much worth seeing. I'll show you that in just a moment here. Bitcoin, as far as risk assets go, selling off a little bit. And now, mind you, we have a fair way to go down to the 61.8. That's down here around where you see this sideways trade that we saw, and that 61.8 is over pretty much the entire history of Bitcoin. So let me put that on there for you real quick so that we can see where that's at. So there's the Fibonacci retracement, and actually 61.8 is a little bit lower than I thought. It actually comes down here. The 50 is about that 40,000. So the 50% retracement is where we're looking at for that. You can see we've come down to the 23.6, and that about 48,000 is still in that table. Now, if we could bring that more recently up to here, and again, I'm still having trouble with my mouse. I apologize. Might have to switch out here in a moment. So there are 61.8 is getting close to that level. The 50% Fibonacci to this more recent low that we have going back to November of 2022 up to this most recent high is still showing us a 50% Fibonacci retrace about 45,000. We still have about 52,000 to catch us along the way. Now, mind you, we are pushing up on 60,000. If we break back up above the 23.6, then we get that as support. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we do continue to sell from here, but it is something that we want to pay attention to. Don't miss out on this yellow line that you see right here, which is that 200-day. Moving over from there, let's talk about Apple. Apple, we are actually possibly getting into a range-bound trade on Apple where we were just at the bottom of the range, and with those earnings pushing us back up, that can help confirm this bottom that we had right here, and we'll see if we max out around the 198 to the 200 level. And on June the 10th, we actually have the WWDC event coming out for them. There's supposed to be massive announcements. And with the excitement coming off of the earnings, if the market strength does hold out between now and then, Apple's strength could also continue and maybe hit the top of this range, which could tell you where that profit taking might take place if you're trading on a company like Apple, or if you're somebody who holds on to those shares and we're experiencing range bound trade, maybe being selling calls against your shares to capitalize on some additional profit. Could be something that could pay off handsomely for you. And I also talked yesterday in StockMo's Discord, and I also talk about this kind of stuff in my own Discord. I have my own little corner in StockMo's Discord where I post about options, and I said about selling Apple puts, for example, when you're at the bottom of a trade, is something where it could actually get you cheaper shares, or at least allow you to capitalize on some premium and not run into as much risk of exercise, or I'm sorry, for assignment with somebody who exercising their right to sell you those shares. And this is one of those cases where that would have paid off really handsomely. So let's move from there into Tesla. So for Tesla, yesterday, the technical that you want to check out is that we actually came down to the 50 EMA, which is now above the 50 SMA, but we had buying pressure coming off of that, 179 in the pre-market hours. We want to stay above the 50, this little blue line coming right down across here. We're staying above that, finding that as support could give us more upward momentum on here, and we're going to have to see what we get from that. CPI is going to be absolutely enormous to watch for Tesla. NVDA, still speaking about the 50-day, still looking for that direction for the overall market. For NVIDIA, we actually came up and tagged the 50-day twice. We could see more upward pressure. As a matter of fact, in the pre-market hours, we're opening, at least if we open near with the value that we're at right now, the market could open, we're right at that 50, possibly above it. Non-farm payrolls could probably impact that as well. The Apple earnings, I think, are going to be something that put a little bit more pressure, a little bit more wind in the sails of NVIDIA leading up to their earnings, which takes place about 19 days from now. There we go. Wednesday, the 22nd. Be watching for that. My prediction I can keep putting up on the screen. So far, still in the realm of possibility for us. We need to see that market strength hold out for that to happen, and also some excitement in AI continue to hang around. There's been a little bit of doubt. So if we don't get there before earnings, they come out and they crush earnings, and they have excellent guidance moving forward that there's still a long way to go for AI. We could most definitely see that 1,000 come to fruition. Leading up to or just after, we're going to have to watch and see. It is possible that I'm wrong and that we don't get there. If in that case, we need to see where we do top out. Are we going to put in higher highs, or are we going to continue to consolidate like you see with these trend lines that I have on here right now? In the pre-market hours, we could be breaking out of the top of this trend line, and then we want to see if we're breaking back up over 900. That's where we're also going to find significant resistance. So guys, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you want to see my buys and sells, hear more of my commentary, there's a link down in the description for the Patreon. Click that, sign up, and head on over to the Discord that's over there where you can see those buys and sells and talk to me and my other community members. Also, down in the description, you'll find a link for a technical analysis trading course. And when you click on that and sign up, you can learn how to take your trading game to the next level. As always, guys, really do appreciate it. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.